civilian homes, using Lebanese civilians as human shield. This threat allows Hezbollah to make southern Lebanon, who was supposed to be secure by 1701, the resolution, it was supposed to be secure, but it's not. It has deadly arms, as we have seen today with secondary explosions and the evidence I showed you today. We have to make sure that Hezbollah is away from the border, far away, with no capabilities that are risking our citizens. In the same time, no Radwan forces, none, next to a border with no infrastructure and no capabilities. We showed today an aerial campaign. It is currently now an aerial campaign. This is what we did. And we will do whatever we need in the next stages in order to prevent the threat of Hezbollah, secure the border, and create the conditions for the return safely for the citizens of northern Israel.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over 9,000 rockets, missiles, UAVs at Israeli families, homes, and communities. In the last week alone, Hezbollah fired over 700 rockets, missiles, UAVs, hitting homes deep inside Israel and forcing hundreds of thousands of Israelis into bomb shelters. For years, Hezbollah has been planning to do in northern Israel what Hamas did in southern Israel on October 7th. Invade Israel, infiltrate civilian communities, and massacre innocent civilians. To achieve this goal, Hezbollah drew up a plan. They called it Conquer the Galilee. On Friday, the IDF conducted a precise strike based on intelligence on Ibrahim Akil, the architect of this plan, and other senior Radwan force commanders in Beirut. At the time of the strike, these Hezbollah commanders were meeting to plan an October 7th style attack in northern Israel. To make sure that Hezbollah can't carry out such an attack, and in order to enable all 60,000 Israelis to safely return back to their homes in northern Israel, we must act against this threat. This threat is just a few hundred of meters away from the communities and families in northern Israel. Today, based on precise intelligence, we conducted extensive strikes against Hezbollah terror targets in Lebanon that posed an imminent threat. The IDF struck 1,300 targets until now, including long-range cruise missiles, heavyweight rocket with 1,000 kilo warhead. This is the same type of rocket that was used in the Majd al-Shams attack that killed 12 innocent children. We also struck a short and medium range rockets and UAVs, all capable of attacking deep inside Israeli territory and causing major damage to civilian towns and cities. As part of our efforts to mitigate harms to civilians, we provided advance warning to civilians in specific villages in Lebanon where Hezbollah embedded its military assets and weapons and warned them to move out of harm's way. However, even as we called on civilians to move away from danger, we saw that Hezbollah operatives were doing the opposite and acted to prevent civilian moving safety. This is because Hezbollah uses civilian population and civilian homes as a human shield for its terrorist activities. Today we exposed this strategy, showing how Hezbollah uses civilian homes as a cover for their deadly weapons. In these images, you can see how Hezbollah hides long-range rockets with range of hundreds of kilometers inside the attic of a house in the heart of Khumin al-Takhta village in southern Lebanon. You can see here that the rocket is stored on an hydraulic system and is prepared for a launch out of an opening in the roof, directed at the communities in northern Israel. And more than that, under this attic, a family lives and serves as a human shield for Hezbollah. the IDF strikes today, we saw many secondary explosions, such as this. Behind every secondary explosions, there's a building containing deadly munitions, rockets and missiles, triggering such a reaction like you see here. It is likely that some of the casualties are from these secondary explosions. Here you can see a house used by Hezbollah to store its weapons. In the footage here following our strike on the weapon, secondary explosions can be clearly seen, and a rocket fired and hit a nearby house. Let me be clear. Hezbollah is responsible for this situation. This is Hezbollah's plan to turn southern Lebanon into a battlefield for its attacks on Israel. We cannot accept terrorist groups storing weapons inside people's homes, using them to fire at other civilian communities. The international community must condemn Hezbollah's grave violation of international law and actions that endanger civilians on both sides of the border. The IDF makes vast efforts not to hit civilians and make every effort to mitigate harm to civilians during operational activity. Regarding the high number of casualties, everyone is a tragedy in Lebanon. Among those killed were a large number of Hezbollah terrorists who were next to the weapons that we targeted. Israel is facing threats on all fronts and continuing to act against them in defense for the people of Israel. We have many other missions to carry out. We have to bring back home all our hostages that are held in brutal conditions by Hamas. We have to bring them back home in all means. We have to continue dismantling Hamas capabilities in Gaza. And we have to bring security to every Israeli citizen in the north and in the south. Questions, please.
2 questions from AP. The first, Israel has been battling Hamas for nearly a year, and it still hasn't realized all of its goals in Gaza. Are we looking at the possibility of months of fighting in Lebanon as well? Second question is the army prepared for a ground invasion now? And if the order comes, how quickly could ground forces move in?
Imagine Warlock, Hell Knight, and Archdemon in one stack. And I beat them using only 2 heroes.
Think you're tough?
Who let you speak? You know who I am? 97 hero power, VIP. How did you do this?
Most players miss this hidden secret on the first level. Take out the Goblin Fisherman and snatch his lucky harpoon.